So again, official welcome to everyone joining us from Asia and Europe. And I'm sure that you've joined us because you're interested in learning more about the ASEFYLS Capacity Trainings 2026. And that's exactly what we have ahead of us today. We will share a little bit about the background of the project, what the objectives are for the training. We'll have a conversation with alumni from previous editions. And as we go through today's session, we'll explore the eligibility, the selection that we have ahead of us, and based off of any questions that you may have submitted when you registered for this webinar, we will be able to also answer them, hopefully all, and any questions that you can also put into this webinar using the Q&A function. So you already know, I see we have some people joining in the chat messaging. You can use this to connect with each other, but any questions that you want to direct to me during this session or any of our alumni, please use the Q&A function so that we can filter them properly. But without further ado, I would like to just give a brief introduction to the program before we go into our anticipated also discussion with our alumni. So you may be joining this webinar and you have read up everything on our website about the project, past editions, and all that is to do with ASEFYLS. But for those of you who do not know so much, the ASEF Young Leaders Summit is one of our flagship projects at the Asia Europe Foundation, or ASEF for short, that you'll hear me mentioning quite a bit. And it's a platform that we use to connect young people like yourself between Asia and Europe, so more in an informal educational space. And what we do is, of course, because it's a leadership program, we apply what we like to call a 360-degree approach on leadership, and especially on leadership development and building the skills of youth. And we do this through self-leadership, which focuses on you as an individual, on team leadership, which focuses on we, but also teams in different settings, and then societal leadership. What can we do in a more global landscape as we were. So you see this progressively scaling up as well, and you'll see this reflected in the program. And as a leadership development program, and as youth stepping into perhaps your first leadership positions as well, then we also want to ensure that you learn from senior leaders and high-level political leaders, heads of states and governments from the two regions. So we also facilitate dialogues and connections between you as youth and these senior leaders, so that there can be an exchange of knowledge and practices, and that you also as youth can influence and perhaps provide new perspectives to the more senior leaders as well. So objectives, we have three, overarching for the projects, as I mentioned already, and can be sent, of course, by the title. We have the leadership capacity building aspect of the program. And one important aspect as well, our second one, is intercultural understanding and building your capacity in intercultural exchange, in intercultural collaboration. Because, of course, as the Asia Europe Foundation, we have a large mandate across the two regions with 50 countries in Asia and Europe. So there is a lot of different historical backgrounds to be mindful of, cultural sensitivities, etc. And by being part of our programs, you get to meet people from all of these countries and learn to challenge your biases and also develop your own understanding of the world as a more complex view, perhaps, than you initially thought. And especially for this program on the capacity trainings, we focused also on multiplier outreach and, to increase the knowledge beyond the individual cohort that join our program. So what this means, as you may have seen for those of you who have had a look, but we'll come into it later as well, we have what is called an action phase, where following our more intense online training, where you take up all the knowledge that we can send your way, you're also then challenged to go to your own communities and to apply your learnings and share them with your institutions, your student associations, but also immediate community. And by this way, we can have a larger impact beyond those of you that will join our program. But I can ramble on a lot about the background and the history and everything that has to do with our program. But what we have here with us today is an opportunity to ask people who actually were part of the program what they thought about it, learnings that they have, and how you can fine-tune your application to be a part of this as well. So we have two of our participants from the ASEF Capacity Buildings 2024 with us, one who joined us in China for the capacity training there, and one who joined us in Europe for the training in Hungary. So we're very excited to have the two of them with us here today. So allow me to first introduce Ms. Annika Maurer, who is from Germany. And who previously was, as mentioned, part of our program. And one of the projects that she actually brought into ASEFYLS, she has continued developed since she was part of our project. So we're very much looking forward to hearing more from her. We also have with us Mr. Itsuki as well, who is was part of the training in China, and he has also since then come back to our program last year as a navigator as well. And whilst it's not relevant for this year's program, a navigator is a person that we bring in from a previous cohort of participants to help guide the new cohort of attendees and participants and help them in their learning journey. So with the two of them, we're very excited to delve more into what made them apply, how did they enjoy the training, and any tips and tricks that you may have for them. So with that in mind, I would like to open first for a question for myself, but if you have any questions for them throughout our discussion, please use the Q&A function and I'll do my best to bring them in as well. So first, perhaps to Annika. You can give a brief introduction to yourself, but also tell me what made you apply to ASEFYLS back, I guess, in 2024.
Oh, thank you very much for this question, and good morning, good day, everyone. I'm Annika, and I work on intercultural dialogue. So I've created this project called Intercultural Connections, where I lead youth exchange with youth around the world. And I've had a big network in Latin America and in Africa, but I have not really worked with youth from Asia before. So one of the reasons I applied was just to use this unique opportunity to meet people from all over Asia without having to travel far. I joined in Hungary, which was still in Europe, but I met so many interesting people. And our topic, I know this year is different, but our topic was based on Society 5.0 to build sustainable, ethical, and inclusive societies. And I was not aware of the concept 5.0. So I thought this would be the most amazing experience to learn about this concept in an intercultural cohort, and also build a network with youth from around the world. And I think that our program had an action phase, made it possible for me to connect with others and then collaborate on our multiplier projects. And so that I could be scaling up the project that I was already doing in a way that wouldn't have been possible without ASEF.
Lovely. Thank you so much. And it's great to have you back here to share more with our attendees today. Over to you, Itsuki. Same question. What made you apply to the program back in 2024?
All right, thank you so much. I'm Itsuki. I am from Japan, and I'm studying aerospace engineering now in Tokyo University, a bit north of Tokyo, suburban areas. And it's glad to see everyone here. I hope you can hear my voice clearly. Actually, I had like several reasons for me to apply for this for back in 2024, but I'll just tell one big theme I had on myself was to step out of my comfort zone. I said before, I came from a very suburban area in Japan, and I had whilst it's my uni had a lot of international students. I was involved in international activities as well, and of course engineering and entrepreneurship within my university and regions. And I didn't had many opportunities for me to grow, but at the same time, I kind of started to feel my environment was a bit limited in terms of diversity. And of course, it's always difficult to find someone who are from different countries and who is from different backgrounds and fields of study. And that was one of the biggest reason why I applied for this and the biggest motivations for me to participate in this program. And I was luckily and happily was able to connect with people from different countries, different disciplines, and different perspectives. And I think it really stood out to me as a unique opportunity for me to participate in the program in 2024.
Amazing. Thank you very much. And I want to touch upon something that both of you mentioned now in your introductory responses, which is diversity. Because you both mentioned that it was an opportunity for you to meet people from other countries and coming from perhaps an area where you didn't have had the opportunity to meet others that way. So I know that this is going off the script a little bit what I sent you before, but is there a moment during the program where perhaps you had some biases or preconceived understandings of people from another country that you were challenged by, or something that made you rethink a preconceived notion that you had before? Either of you want to start out with that?
Well, I my first thought was not specifically one bias or one notion, but I just realized how little I knew about the history of certain countries, I just didn't know anything, so I couldn't have a bias in that sense. But there were like so many little things that I didn't even think about, or so many so many places and so many histories that I wasn't aware of. And we did this one very political simulation game. And it was interesting for me to see that for some, the concept of this game is just something that they're not familiar with. And I took this as something for normal because I've been doing this in school. So it comes from like a very Anglo-Saxon teaching style. So for me, this was a normal thing. And I find it curious that for other people, this is not something that they do in the education system. So it was just interesting that we all have very different perspectives on how to do these games or our relationships to it, and that I just found very curious and very interesting to learn.
Yeah, great. And I hope maybe then both you could teach them a little bit about your own work as well, and the way that you had been taught in school. And this was an opportunity. I know the game that you're referring to, and I think from our perspective also as the facilitators, it was very interesting to see how all the participants took on different roles. To put a little bit of context for the attendees as well, it was a simulation game in which there was let's say not a local election, but there needs to be a vote on whether or not AI were supposed to be used in a specific way. And the participants were challenged to act as different actors, be it media, be it those that were for this change, those that were against, and then trying to convince each other to come to an understanding that was favorable for their character. So very interesting to see how you both saw this as both in terms of methodology as something that was foreign, perhaps to some that hadn't done that in school, but then also the actual roles that you had to take on was a bit of a challenge as well. Okay, cool. Thank you. Itsuki, anything that you want to share?
Yes, I maybe the what Anika said was a bit very educational way. So I just wanted to go a bit more of informal, the daily life stuff. I think one of the fun things I learned was we all had a different pronunciation, different style of English, different use of English. Of course, I am from Japan, and we do have a completely different side of grammatical uses, and sometimes it's a bit harder for me to communicate in English. But a lot of the people do have the same experience. Almost all of the participants does not speak English as their first language, but I think we were all respectful for understanding that our language is English is not our first language, where there might be some information that cannot be like taught as what they intended to. So if there's something that was a bit ambiguous, they will try to like help us out with people will try to help us out to clarify what those meanings are so that there wouldn't be any misunderstandings in between us. And I think those steps were very unique and very diligent for all the participants that was there for my cohort.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that you touch upon a very important note, which is, of course, that our programs are in English, and as you mentioned, most people are not native English speakers. But it's an opportunity for you to step out of your comfort zone and to try new things. And coming back also to overarching objective, which is intercultural understanding, which also comes with empathy. And it's important there to try and listen for what the person is trying to say, not just hearing immediately what they're saying, but what are they actually trying to communicate to you, and how can we bridge those gaps, perhaps that sometimes do occur because of language barriers. So very important. Okay, then on the note of something that a scenario where you were challenged, perhaps let's go to then one of your favorite moments. So from your participation, which was correspond online and on site for the two of you, yeah, do you have a specific moment that you would like to share with our well, potential applicants, and some of them maybe have already applied also who are joining us?
Well,
Okay.
my favorite. Okay, go
Oh no,
first.
please sign. It's fine, Anika. You may start first.
So my one of my favorite moments is directly connected to what I just said earlier about the biases and the things that we learned, is because um like the learning and the conversations we had with the others, especially in the informal time, was just so enriching and so interesting. And there was one evening where we spent 2 hours sitting, and there was a new friend from Cambodia and a new friend from Indonesia who explained us the history of their countries. And that's why I said, where I noticed that there's so much I don't know. And I found it so interesting that the world's largest Hindu temple is in Cambodia, which is a Buddhist country, but the world's biggest Buddhist temple is in Indonesia, which is a more of a majority Muslim country. And they explained all the history of the countries and why is that. And I think it was just such a privilege to learn history and culture from a person who is from that culture and not from like a book or a video, and just being able to talk to people and learn from their stories and from their perspectives. I think that was the most beautiful part. But of course, the teaching and the activities we did, they were all almost very interesting because they were so mixed. So I think there was something for everyone and so many different perspectives. And what I really liked, especially in the capacity building we did before, in the online session, is that there was so much on future thinking, and we had 2 or 3 lectures that helped us get from like talking about what doesn't go well with the world to imagining the world we want to have. And just this mindset shift of like, we can change something and where should we start? That just gave me a lot of creativity and it helped me see things in different ways. And I think that's also the purpose of the program, to give us some new ideas and some new perspectives, and doing all of this in a context where everyone has like interesting stories to share just make this all so much more enriching.
Yeah, thank you. I think the people to people connections that we make along the way are just as important as the very concrete content, let's say. But sometimes they blur together, and also one helps the other. How about you, Itsuki? What's your favorite moment from the training?
It's really difficult for me to choose because all the memories I had there was amazing ones. But I would definitely say that the time zone diversity was very fun for me. It really stood out for the online session. I was in Japan, I think today as well. I had to join from 5 p.m. It's a bit, or I wouldn't say late at night, but in the afternoon. While here in Europe, they join from morning sessions. Um, and people joined from like different places. Some joined from like a beach or something because they were in a holiday break or whatever it is. And I had to join from university classes, or maybe I had to join from schools. They all had different environments that they were joining in. And that's one of the fun things that I've experienced. But most importantly, Well, it kind of matches with what I had with my fear of joining the ASEF program was that I think I was the third youngest of all the program attendees when I participated in 2024, and I knew that most of the people participating had more experience than me, more knowledge than me in international collaborations or corporations studies. So I was kind of in a fear of not being able to um, not compete, not being able to have a very comprehensive discussion with them. But it was nothing that I had to worry about, to be honest. And the very deep discussions we had on each topic, especially about leaderships, science, Society 5.0, which was our theme, was very concrete and very I think comprehensive discussions is what I had and what I had what I feel the best experience I had for online and offline sessions. And I would say like after going back to my after joining this course, I think I also gained a skill to be more comprehensive to each other. Not like in a style of like being respected, but more like how can I try to understand people's views, people's ideas, and how can I bring the experience back to my community, local communities, people, friends, my juniors from university and so on. So everything I learned kind of connected to what I was able to do after I joined the Young Leadership Summit. So yes, these are all memorable moments for me.
Mm. Yeah, thank you. Very, very important. And you touch also upon both the growth that you did during the program, but also afterwards. And of course, I might bring in a question on this before we wrap up. But yeah, it's just the start. And as you mentioned, you were young when you joined the first time, and you're still young. But the point is also that we want to bring in people from. I mean, there's a reason why we have the age range of 18 to 30. There is things that the young people coming into their first leadership positions can learn from the older and vice versa. So these are also dialogues that we want to facilitate through the program. So very important. Yeah, so I think I want to ask two questions that kind of maybe go together. So I'll ask you to answer them together, and then final point on where you see yourself maybe going after this. But now we have quite a few people in this call, and I know also people who will watch this recording afterwards. So when they're sitting writing their applications, what tips and tricks do you have for them when drafting it? And if they're not sure whether or not they should apply, is there anything you want to say to convince them to do so? I see Mitsuki is looking up to see what he wants to answer. So again, I think we've established this order a bit. So maybe Annika, do you want to start sharing?
So, well, a lot of people have asked me that, and I don't so. I don't know about the criteria that ASEF has, but we at Intercultural Connections, we also recruit for like youth leadership programs. And what I can say for both the program for the Youth Leader Summit that we participated in and all youth programs is that the more diversity, the more interesting the conversation is. I think it was amazing that we had the age range of 18 to 30 because there were so many different perspectives. And there's just, I felt like ASEF put a lot of effort on finding people from so many different domains that together we had like so many different perspectives that made the conversation the most interesting. So as an organizer myself, when I'm looking at applications, I'm looking at, does this person add something to the mix? Does this person have something interesting to say? And I have to say that now with like ChatGPT and all the LLMs, applications have become really boring and really mediocre, that they all sound the same and everyone is just excited to join and thrilled to participate. And it sounds like, yeah, I want to join because I want to join. But what I'm looking for in applications is more of like, what does this person like is passionate about? What does this person bring to the conversation? What does this person want to learn? Because to have amazing applicants, what you need is that people want to engage and share. Like the program works because everyone is just so curious and everyone is just so interested in learning, in exchanging, in self-development, in sustainable development or any other forms. And so when writing an application, what I would suggest you is like be real and be you. Don't try to fit in a perfect participants that you think, because I don't think that exists. But rather think about like what are you interested about and what you would love to talk about to others. Like for example, there's someone who's a marine biologist, which is a very specific field, but this is also an important person voice to have in a debate about climate change and sustainability, or someone working with women on menstrual health. But there could also someone working in a student association at university trying to bring youth together just to help them work together. And I think all of these different perspectives together will be very interesting. So in your application, first of all, write it by yourself and not with an LLM, because if I think if you can't write 200 words about yourself, then you might be also very boring in speaking, and they don't know, because they only see what ChatGPT wrote. They don't know who you are. So just put the most of yourself in the application, and just like be specific of your own interests, and you should definitely apply. If you're hesitating of applying, because it's an amazing opportunity, and you might be exactly that profile that, well, it hasn't been there. You're maybe an older or younger participant that is exactly perfect for the mix of people that are curious about learning together. So I can just tell you, like, apply, but don't use ChatGPT.
Very good, very good. In today's day and age, don't use ChatGPT. Don't take the easier route. I'll touch on this later also when we go into the, but very important point. Thank you very much, Annika. Itsuki, if they haven't been convinced by Annika, any other tips and trick and things you want to mention?
I think I do have a lot of same views as Anika had. I wouldn't say don't use AI because as I mentioned, yeah, I'm not a first language English speaker or reader or writer, so I always have grammar mistakes that I want to fix. So I would recommend if you want to use it, use that to like refurbish your answers. I think it's that's a great way to use AIs or whatever the thing you want to use. But I think to be being honest is one of the great keys that I think only one key that I could give is that it's really difficult to like show your processes. It's really AI is easy for you to show you the answers or results of what you've done, but the processes, your ambitions and your views and visions of the future, and of course your emotions you had while doing your activities is not a thing that could be easily written in by AI. So it's always important, as Nika said, it's always important for you to first write it by yourself in English, um, regardless of your language skills. I'm not a very good writer. I'm not a very good speaker as well, but still, I took a lot of my time to write it in English first, ask ChatGPT if I was able to tell my intentions correctly, and if there's any suggestions I should make. I made some suggestions, and but everything written there was not. There's no lie. There's nothing that was completely made of AIs and so on. So I think that's one of the big. I think that's one and only tips that I could give, and at least for the if you are still like hesitant about applications, um, I think I'm gonna say the same thing. Just try it. Just go for it. Um, I know this is gonna be a very difficult task for people to pass this screening process. I know for last year's there was about 20,000 out and only like 50 or 60 was selected if I'm not wrong. But I know it's going to be a very hard process that you have to go through. But what you can earn from going passing through the screening process is very memorable. And what you can learn from going through the processes is also very, I think, is also a learning process. I had a lot of things that I have to go through that which I hadn't had time to take some time for it. And I think it's one of the great ways for you to look back on what you've done, what your motivations or what your passions are by going through the applications. And I think maybe some people might have the fear of rejection, not being able to pass the screening. I mean, you still have like 8 more years to apply if you are 22, if you're in my age. So this is not just this is not just your chance, not your last chance. You still have 8, 9 years for you to apply for the next one, the following one. I think Linnea should be able to continue this amazing program for at least for the next 8 years. So just try putting your effort in and be optimistic about it. And I think just value on what you are doing for your application.
Thank you very much. And I think I'm convinced, but I'm also the one screening them, so we'll see how it goes. But yeah, thank you very much, both of you, for being with us today. I want to give you each 1 minute to maybe give a bit of idea of what happens after the program, because now there's been 2 years. Itsuki, you also joined last year. So perhaps in a quick little reflection. What did you take away from the program, and how have you since then continued to develop as a leader in your own right? Yeah, Annika, you want to start?
Well, I take away a lot of great friendships and great partnerships. I think already in the multiplier phase, we found out who was complementary in skills. So I was helping with other people's multiplier projects, and other people joined as a speaker in my multiplier project. So I really love this collaboration. And we're still in touch, and we're still trying to see how we can collaborate, because the work I'm doing is remotely. So it's amazing, possible to just do this together with other people who also can like just use Zoom. And with some of the participants who are based in Europe, when they passed by Paris, they visited me, and we're still being friends, and we're trying to see how much we can collaborate. So even last year, we still like when I rerun my multiplier project now, this time in official capacity. My friend was still joining to give a presentation, and I think like this continuous collaboration is something that you have to seek out. Like networks have to be like curated. Like you have to continue talking to people, but if you stay in touch, it really creates a great network of youth that you can rely on, that you can work with together.
Yeah, yeah, very good. As a little statistic, we have about, I think, across not only this project, but across projects in our department, in the education department, we have over, I think, between 80 and 90% that are in touch with at least some people from their cohort 3 years after they participated in the project. So of course, if you just are in contact with one person, that's a success from our side, and that you established at least one connection. So it's great to see also that this spurs collaboration as well. Itsuki, what have you taken away, and what are you doing in your leadership journey?
Yeah, so as Linnea explained, I had a very nice opportunity for me to participate as a navigator last year for the different program of ASEF. And I think the one thing that I gained personally as I gained for my individual experience was that I was able to start up another company and I kind of failed with the first one before joining ASEF Youth Leader Summit. But so I was like, I wanted to do something new, but I didn't have some courage about it. But a lot of insights that people gave me, it made up my mind for me to start another company where I kind of focuses on youth development and international collaborational events. So I think Linnea and Freya know that I kind of used ASEF's buildings for one event that I planned for my company, and I also did several events online with some of the cohorts that I met in China as well. Also, for me, participating as a navigator last year in the different program, uh, while I think the main intention was a bit different from Young Leadership Summit and last year's one. What I gained was that the mutual collaboration continues very quickly and very gradually and very in the long term. Where I still met someone this year who I met in China, where I still people participated in last year's program who are meeting up and who took a photo and shared it in the group chat. And that doesn't end, that hasn't ended for the past 8 months. So those connections are very, very important for me. And um, for those who participated in China, they know that I cried for the entire day on the last day where we had to leave China. So, yes, I think the connections that you can make is very, very special.
Hmm. Thank you very much. And I can attest to there was multiple people, not only Tsuki, but it just attests to even the short time that you have in I guess relation to the other times also online and in person. It really connects everyone on a deeper level. But yeah, again, thank you so much for the two of you for being with us. And I know that some questions are coming in the Q&A. I have not yet seen any that specifically directed to Annika and Itsuki, but if you have any, you can also post them there and they can write their answers to you directly, as long as they're here in the meeting. I know that they also need to leave in a little bit, but yeah, so if you want to ask any questions specifically to them, take your chance now before they're gone. I'm sure they also would be willing perhaps to connect over LinkedIn if you have further questions. But at this stage, I will thank you and we'll continue to share a bit more about the program, about also the eligibility. And also, I know that, again, you have put questions in the chat, but some of them will be kind of answered throughout my presentation. So I ask also for your patience as I go through. And then towards the end, any questions that I have not answered throughout my presentation, I'll be sure to also cover at that stage. So with that in mind, let's go through a little bit about the topic and the program as a whole, so you know what we are heading towards. So as you will have seen, of course, in the promotional materials, the ASEFYLS Capacity Trainings 2026 is focusing in on anticipatory leadership for a human-centered future. And of course, one aspect of this is the leadership aspect as a broad foundation that we would cover in the program every year. So what does it mean to be a leader, especially in an increasingly interconnected world where people can, as Annika mentioned, connect over Zoom, over online features and collaborate that way, but also where we're seeing, of course, geopolitical landscapes shifting. And how can you also navigate this as a young person as well, and also taking in mind different competing and sometimes compelling also values and expectations. But then looking at anticipatory leadership, what does this mean? So the way we classify it is the capacity and habit of using the future to inform the present. And you do this by analyzing trends, exploring a range of future scenarios, and using these insights and the, let's say, analytical data that you get from this. You can question this assumption, adjust your leadership in the present, and take on collaborative, adaptive actions to move your different systems. So again, looking at the different lenses of self, team, and societal leadership towards more equitable and sustainable futures. And the human-centered aspect here is, of course, in relation also to rapid technological advancements, where technology is being more and more integrated into our everyday life. How can we still ensure that we keep human values, empathy, as we mentioned, sustainability, compassion towards each other as a central focus? And then looking at a lot of questions that I see also here a little bit, but that we saw in the form when you registered for this webinar was also related to the program structure, expectations at different stages, and what you're supposed to be doing. A little bit more insight into that. So let's share a bit about the overall timeline and zoom into the different aspects for you to learn a bit more. So this is the overall timeline. Of course, now we're here during the open call where we are anticipating your applications and looking forward to that. And then we'll transition into our your online training on anticipatory leadership. And then for a selected group of you, we'll go to the training in Tromsø in Norway. And then later on, going to the multiplier phase. And for the majority of those selected for the online training, we'll then immediately go into the multiplier phase. So what do these stages really mean? And what does that entail for you? So for the online training, you will see that it spans across 8 weeks, already starting in the beginning of June. So this is just the overview that's also available on the website for you to look more thoroughly at. But we start out with some welcome sessions and opportunities for networking for you to break the ice with the participants that have also been selected. And then we transition into more topic-focused sessions. So we will have webinars on Tuesdays and workshops on Thursdays for the next coming weeks. So a summary of this is that it's across these 8 weeks, twice a week. As I mentioned, a webinar and a workshop. Webinars is more like this, where we present a topic and we may bring in some speakers to discuss it, and you have opportunity to engage with these speakers and experts via Q&A, ask questions, etc. Whilst the workshops will be like a Zoom meeting. So for those of you that have perhaps done some school settings during in an online format, that's an opportunity for you to have your camera and audio on. We'll have more discussions, some breakout rooms for you to discuss topics, exercises to take the theory that was presented in the webinars and turn it into more practical examples for you to understand as well. So that's the overview. In terms of self-paced individual learning, we also provide additional materials for you to delve deeper into these topics, but that's beyond the sessions themselves. And we'll also put you into different study groups. And by study groups, I don't mean that you will have specific assignments per se, but we may post some discussion questions after the sessions for you to continue delving deeper into these with the people in your study group. So actual commitments with the webinars and everything is 4 hours around per week. And then depending on how you engage with your study group and with the self-paced individual learning, as mentioned, the additional materials, you may have additional time as well for this. So that's the timeline. Let me just quickly go back to this to just showcase the topics. So we cover anticipatory leadership as a mindset first. So how do we frame that and what different aspects do we look at? And then each week we tackle more of a case study on this and how we approach it, going into systems thinking, futures thinking. So Annika already mentioned futures thinking as part of our programs before, but we also look into foresight, horizon scannings, terms that will become more understandable as you go along. Then, after the training portion, the online training that spans these 8 weeks, excuse me for 1 second. This is what happens when I'm the one speaking for a long time. Okay, when we go from the online training, then into the action phase. So we've done 8 weeks of theoretical absorption of knowledge. We've discussed the topics with our peers in the group. You will then be challenged to the action phase, which is what we also heard from our alumni, an opportunity for you to organize an activity within your own community. And here we're looking at community on a broad understanding. It could be within your organization directly, through your organization, but in your town, your hometown. So this is also up for you to decide how you wish to implement your learnings and the best way to disseminate it. So we have a couple of questions also in the registration for this webinar, which asks what can this look like? What type of event am I supposed to plan and organize? And this can be varied. So it can be online, it can be in person. Annika, as she mentioned, organized one of her multipliers online, which brought in then the opportunity to have people from many different countries to join. So spanning her community then to an international setting when we talk about the implementation scope. But it can also be in person with a workshop. It could be a lecture that you put together with the speaker on the topic. We've had people do variations of simulations games. So we're looking at a lot of different methodologies and a lot of different formats that you can do. And don't stress if you don't know right now what you would want to do for your implementation. Of course, we have opportunity to expand a little bit about your initial thoughts in the application form. But when it actually comes to planning the event, you will be able to take inspiration from the training, from the methodologies that we have approached and shared with you, and then make an informed decision from there and build up. So here, the commitment is a bit different because it depends on your input and also when you organize your event. Because you can organize it at any point between the ending of the online training, which is end of July, so let's say from beginning of August, until our closing session at the end of November. So you have here a couple of months to plan, to execute, and then also report back to us what happened as well for your event. So a little bit of a planning execution depends on you, but you will have support from ASEF in terms of supporting you in the planning. So if you have questions on what should I do, how should I do this, etc. But also in terms of dissemination for, let's say, marketing purposes. If you're looking for participants from a specific region, etc., we can help with these things. And also there are opportunities to apply for some funding to help support and organize these events. But we'll come into that a little bit more when we talk about the funding for the program in general. Then, whilst the two phases, the training phase and the action phase, is obligatory for all participants, there is also the Asia-Europe Youth Leadership Training on Anticipatory Leadership in the Arctic. That is an additional element to the program for a selected group of participants that have already taken part in the training. So what does this mean? This means that when you apply, you can see in the application form that you can indicate, first of all, if you're interested and available to join this aspect of the training or not. If you are interested, then you will be put into, and available, you will put into another, let's say, smaller selection pool for those that will come to the on-site program. So the commitment here is that you are available for the dates, let's say plus minus 1 day for you to also get to Tromsø for the activity and be able to actively participate throughout the day. So this means that if you are working or studying full time and you cannot take these days off, then that can be a bit difficult. We do provide support in the sense of leave support letters from your employees or from your school, and this is usually the practice for most people that join our programs. We are aware that both the online phase, the action phase, and this additional element of the in-person training is a big commitment. And of course, for the online portion, we do record like we do with this one and provide it to you as participants afterwards. But we, of course, also rely on actually live participation for especially the workshops where we want to have these dialogues ongoing for everyone. So be mindful of this when you look at your own schedule. Can you fit this in is there an opportunity for me to be flexible with my work or with my my studies? So just something to be mindful of. Yes. Then for this part, we have questions on the how we select the people for the program, but that I also see in the chat here. But let's take these when we look at the eligibility and selection for the program as a whole, as it will be more suitable there. Okay, then looking at the rest. Let's go into then the costs and financial support that we can offer as part of this program, because it's very, very good. So you'll see that on our website and everything, we state that it's fully funded, which it is. So there are no application fees. There is really no barrier for you to apply. If you are at all interested in joining our program, just apply and you have a chance to join. We cover all costs related to the training, which means that there is no fee again for the training itself. Speakers, everything in terms of facilitation is covered by us. And there is an opportunity for you to apply for funding to help support your activity during the action phase. This is somewhat limited funded. So again, this depends on if you have perhaps support from your organization that you are representing, or if you can crowdfund money as well for your organization, for your event. But yes, there will be an opportunity for you to apply for some funding here. And then for the in-person training, so the Asia Europe Youth Leadership Training on Anticipatory Leadership in the Arctic in Tromsø, there is also it's also fully funded in the sense that ASEF provides a travel subsidy. And this, what we mean with this is based off of where you are currently located and the estimated cost for you to get to Tromsø, we provide some up until what we can reimburse you. So you will have to pay for flight tickets and these things up front, but then ASEF will reimburse you the cost of those based off of receipts and everything submitted. So this covers the flights, transportation in the country, so airport transfers from the airport in Tromsø to our venues, and it also covers visa and insurance to a cap. And in relation to the visa, you'll see also that in what we do for the leave support letters for you from work and from your studies, we also provide visa support letters for you, for those of you that would require a visa to enter Norway. And this will be signed by us and also by our partners from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Norway to help you in your visa application process. Also, of course, on site, we cover meals and accommodation that is in the program. If you come in, let's say, a day before, then that's a different matter, but accommodation and meals are covered as per the program. For those of you that think, oh, but the cost of a flight to Tromsø is a lot and it's not something that I can cover upfront, we have participants that again have crowdfunded, have gotten support from family as well. Again, it will be reimbursed to you afterwards. But in special circumstances, though not a general practice of ours, ASEF can purchase tickets on behalf of the participants, so no need then to pay upfront. But this is, as I mentioned, in very specific circumstances, and participants will have to seek specific approval for this to ensure that we can have you present. So do not feel that you cannot apply to the program because you do not have the funds to pay these things up front. We will always find a solution for you to ensure your participation. Then coming into eligibility, which I think is the most popping question in the Q&A and also in the questions submitted beforehand. Let me run through the ones that are listed and give a little bit more detail, both in eligibility and then later on selection. So when we're looking at eligibility, we're meaning that we will not be able to look at your application if you do not pass these criteria first. This means that you need to be a citizen of one of our eligible Asian and European countries. This means ASEM countries, or as we call them also sometimes ASEF member countries. This spans, you can find this link on our website, by the way, and also in the application forms. So this means the ASEM countries, ASEM is the Asia-Europe meeting, which is a political process that we are connected to. Therefore, we only have a mandate to take in applicants from these countries. It spans the whole European Union, the UK, Switzerland, and Norway. And then in Asia, it spans ASEAN, but not yet Timor-Leste. I'm sorry, anyone from Timor-Leste who is interested in applying, because of we're very happy that you've been accepted to ASEAN, but it's a separate process to be accepted into ASEM. So we'll have to wait for your acceptance and inclusion there as well before we can take you on. But for the rest of ASEAN, yes. And then you can see also for extending countries as well, Kazakhstan, Mongolia, China, Australia, New Zealand. You can find the full extensive list on our website. And we base this off of citizenship. So you need to have passport from the country, and we cannot base it off of residency. Again, this is because we are a publicly funded organization. So it's our member countries that provide us the funding to organize these projects for their citizens. So if you are someone who is a citizen of a country but living in one of our member countries, then that's unfortunately not enough for you to be eligible. We then are looking at students, young professionals between 18 and 30. So this is the age range we're looking at. You will see in the application documents that we can make exceptions in special circumstances up to the age of 35, but these people will not be prioritized above those that fit the criteria of 18 to 30. So be mindful of this. If you are above 30, then you can still apply if you think that you have a lot to offer for the program, but we cannot make exemptions for under 18. And this is because, of course, the legal age of being an adult, and you cannot join the program beyond this. And we count the age of 18 from the start of program. So if you are turning 18 this year, before the 9th of June, 2026, then you can apply for the program. But if you're turning 18 after the 9th of June, then unfortunately you are not eligible this year, and we encourage you to apply in the coming years instead. Then the question that most people have questions about, or the eligibility that most people have questions about, is the playing a leading role in a youth organization or student association. And what we're looking for here, what we put also in our documents, is someone who is in a team, leading leading activities within the community, within an organization or association, specifically for youth. So it can be an organization within your school, like a student association that way. It can be, we've had members from different youth councils in different municipalities and countries. And it doesn't have to be in a specific sector. So let's say that you are the vice president of your, I don't know, local debate group or something like this. Then that is one thing. If you're a associate in an association for scouts, we had scouts, for example, join before. You're running your scouts group, or you are somewhat active in your student groups. I don't know, engineering faculty, wherever it may be. It doesn't matter what the specific background is. This is why we're also looking at different academic and professional backgrounds, as long as it's youth-centered. And youth, again, looks at 18 to 30. So for us. So if you are engaged with somewhat younger kids, that's okay. But if your bracket spans up to 18, 20, however it may be, that's fine, as long as it covers partly of the youth aspect. And I saw a question in here in the Q&A, which was whether or not the organization needs to be registered. It doesn't have to be a registered organization or association, but it needs to have enough of a foundation, let's say, that there is an existing network, you have some sort of structure there, that it's not just you and a couple of friends, for example, coming together and every week you do an event in your community. It needs to have some sort of organizational structure in place that we can see and say, okay, this is a functional organization and they have a network that they're activating through their work. Another question that I saw also was in relation to the role, which is some of you are volunteers, some of you are doing work, not directly in an organization, but you are engaging people within your field to either teach them something, you're organizing programs, maybe you're doing mentoring. And this is great. It's a way to showcase that you have the network. And you do not have to be like the head of an organization to apply. But unfortunately, we cannot accept on the basis of simply mentoring. And this is not to say that it's not great work, which it really does is. But if you are a mentor for a couple of students, perhaps in your program in school, however it may be, that is a great impact that you can have on these couple of people. But you do not, in that situation, have the multiplier effect that we are looking for, in that we're looking specifically for people who can take on and organize a project with the resources existing within your association and organization, to then multiply the knowledge, spread the knowledge, and you can have autonomy in organizing this event. I know it's a little bit of a fuzzy point, so if you want to have specific clarification on your situation, I think the easiest is to send us an email, and then we'll come up later on the screen, but I'll also put it in the chat. That you can send us an email instead and ask us if your scenario or your role is eligible for the program. So I'll send here in the chat the email for you to let us know, and we can explore more over that aspect. Then for the English level, as I mentioned, all of our programs are run in English, and you need to have the ability to converse and express yourself both verbally and written format in English, and to be able to follow along in conversations. Sorry, I thought the electricity went out. So this is an important aspect, and this is also something that we will assess in your application. So whilst Itsuki, of course, as you mentioned, you can use functions. I know we have Grammarly, you have all of these different functions that can help you with your application. Being mindful that if you over-exaggerate your own English level, it will be difficult for you to follow along in the program and to get the proper learnings from it. So take this into consideration when you do so, when you submit your application. That's not to say that, of course, the program in itself is also an opportunity for you to develop your English level further as well. Okay, now I see that most questions left are related both to when can we get the results, how do we make the selection, and will I be one of the group? What are we looking for in an applicant? So as I mentioned, these are the eligibility criteria. So once you have passed these criteria first, that's when we start looking at different aspects of your application to see if you're a good fit for the program. And this is what we'd like to call the selection criteria. So the selection criteria, we look at motivation to participate, demonstrated experience in community and societal leadership, and this ability, as I mentioned, to create impact and a multiplier effect within your community through the engagement on the program and on the topic. And of course, this is a new topic. I'm not saying that you need to already have experience and know exactly how you would want to organize your event. It is a learning curve, of course, with the program, but you need to have some sort of understanding of different aspects within your own community and how you can contribute to it. That's the ability to create a multiplier effect that we look at. The motivation, we really do want to see your individual motivation. As Annika mentioned, when she looks at applications, which is also true for us, if we see the same generic template of I want to apply or I want to be part of the program because I want to develop my leadership skills, period. That, I think, is quite self-explanatory when applying for our programs. So we would like to know why you in particular would like to join. What are your past experience perhaps that have made you want to apply? What do you want to do in the future with the skills that you are learning? Do you have perhaps an anecdote or a story that you can weave into this to make it more personable in your application? The applications for myself, at least, that I screen that I find the most interesting is those that take me on a little story, a little journey of how you come to perhaps start out your leadership journey and how you now wish to build on it through the program, using some memories of past experience that you can bring in. So this is something that we find very interesting to look at. So don't be afraid here to be unique, to try and stand out, and not follow the traditional format, perhaps, of a motivational letter, because we want to see what you in particular can bring, and why this program would help you and what you would take away from it. Itsuki mentioned that he was quite young and that he was scared that some people would not have the same experience as other older participants in the program. And whilst we are looking for demonstrated experience in community and societal leadership, it doesn't have to be grand. It can be you supporting your classmates through a difficult exam period, whatever it may be. You have already organized a couple of events in your organization and you want to continue doing so. So these are, of course, there are many different ways to showcase that you contribute to someone beyond your immediate self or your immediate group. So again, I want you to try and be creative here and see what you can bring into the focus. And I see a couple of questions as I've been going on now on, I see here also from an anonymous attendee, what if my organization is not exclusively youth focused, but the majority of the members are young? I would say, so the question is, can I organize an activity based on this? And is my, I guess, organization eligible? I would say yes. It doesn't have to be exclusively youth focused, but in a way that you can engage youth through it. Be it that you can do a train the trainers, for example. So in this case, if the majority of your members are young people, can you train them in organizing events by themselves? Can you organize an event for them to learn about the topic? Is there another way that you can think about this? So again, you can be creative, and as long as you can motivate why your organization and the way your position, your role in this organization fits our criteria, then you can really make a lot of things work here as well. Okay, I think I've answered quite a few of these questions. Let me just quickly look through and see if there's any points here. On this point of, let me just quickly go back to our previous slide. Students and young professionals. We had some questions on if you're currently working, you're not yet a student, you're kind of in between, maybe you're also unemployed. That could be the case as well. Can I apply? So we are again looking for someone specifically with this youth organization or youth student focus and connection. So if your everyday work is not focused with this, or your current studies is not focused on this, that's completely fine. You just need to showcase that there is something that you're doing in an aspect of what you're doing that is connected to youth in this way. So that may be that you're going into your studies, you're finished, you're working, however, all of these are eligible. And when we're looking at the selection criteria, of course, all of these points, motivations, demonstrating experience, and everything is something that you can put as well in your letters. But we have questions on what, let's say, qualities we are looking for in an applicant, what values I think I've also seen that we look for. And this is, of course, a very difficult question to answer, because each person is unique that is joining our program. But I want to see personally, I'm one of many that are looking through the applications, but I want to see curiosity. I want to see that you're thinking about not just the immediate implication of, oh, I think it would be really fun to join the program, or I'm interested in learning more, but also how would you take those learning and how would you build that into your existing leadership positions, what you want to do in the future, and how you are going to continue after the program is finished. So I think that would be very important. And when I try to envision a good application, it will be someone who has showcased these things through their motivations, their letters, and their replies. And then again, this aspect of how do they also fit into the group as well. So when we're then looking at actually selecting the people, so let's say we've looked at your application and we say it's a good applicant, and I think that there is ways for us to bring them in. Then of course we have a number of people that we can bring into the online training, a larger group, and then we also have a number of people that will be selected for the on-site event in Norway. So when we look at the application per se, as mentioned, we first make sure that you fulfill the eligibility criteria. Then we look at the selection criteria. So how do you, let's say, express your interest, as I mentioned, and how do you fit into the program? And then we may have a pool of applications that is much bigger than the people that we can actually bring into the training. So when we then do the selection for the online training, we try to look at, of course, a gender balance and a geographical balance to start with. So we want to have as a diverse group as possible to ensure that there are different perspectives, different experiences that people can come in and share, and also what parts as well. I think that this is not updated with my latest, let me continue. Who can be put in together with these people to learn from each other. So of course you will be learning from our experts. That is one aspect. But then another aspect of this is also to learn from each other. So when we're putting together a full group, we want to make sure that the full group has the opportunity to give something to each other. So that's what we're looking for as well. The selection will be in 2 groups this time. So we will make a bigger selection of the participants for the online training. We have questions on how many. We will be selecting between 100 and 120, 130 participants. This also depends on availability of people, etc. But this is one aspect. And then for the on-site training, we will be making another selection for that. which will be based off of active participation in the online training. So what does this mean? This means that the participants that join the online training will have a couple of weeks to join the first sessions, the webinars and the workshops. The selection for the training in Norway will take place about 2-3 weeks after, so on the 19th of June, 2026. So for the first couple of weeks, we will see if you are joining live during the sessions, or we can also actually see if you're catching up on the recordings that we share online afterwards via an e-learning platform that we offer to our participants. And then we will see if you are engaging in discussions on the webinars, workshops as well. Are you asking questions? Are you sharing your thoughts with the larger group? All of these things to see the effort that you're putting in, and that's what we want to reward as well for those that join us on site. For those of you that are who've been selected for the online training and may require a visa, then we may make a selection a little bit earlier and this will be based off of your original application and perhaps a little bit of the engagement online. The selection will then be made a little bit earlier to ensure that there is enough time for you to also get your visa in time. And that is more or less on the selection. I will say that we get a lot of applications. The application period now is open until the 12th of May. So you have a couple of weeks still to submit. But do be mindful that when we then go into the screening process and going through everything, that we have thousands of applications to go through. So this is both an opportunity for you to really challenge us to write a good application, but also be patient with us as we go through. And we aim to have the results of the selection by Monday, the 1st of June. But if there are delays, we will inform all of the applicants as well of this. I see also there was a question in the chat. I'm trying to go in between the Q&A and the chat of whether or not you can see previous applications. Unfortunately, due to both the fact that there are privacy things to be mindful of, but also, as I mentioned, each application is very unique, so there is no one size fits all. We also adjust the application form every year to cater a bit towards the program that we organize. So there's no one way to do the application there either. We cannot share any previous application forms for anyone who has been selected. But I encourage you, again, similar to what we put in the questions here as well, you can reach out to alumni. If you look at our website with our programs, we have our participation booklets where you can find people maybe from your own country that have applied, reach out to them and see if they can give any tips on this process as well. Yes, I think that's that I think I have on selection process. I'm running through this quite quickly, and I want to make sure I covered as many questions as possible in chat. So with that in mind, I have run through a lot of things, and I'm going to take a moment to look at the Q&A chat again to see if I've overlooked anything. So if you're still here, I know that some people have had to go also, and you have any questions that I have not yet covered with my presentation slides, please let me know. And then I will take the last couple of minutes to wait for any incoming questions and make an assessment from there. I see a question on the geographical balance. So for the selection, if each country has its own quota, and how much is the quota for each country? So for the online training, we try to ensure at least 1 to 2, I would say 2 in this instance, per country for us. Again, also to ensure a gender balance from each country. Then we add up based off of also some countries have larger youth populations and have larger amount of applications as well. So, for example, if you come from a country that have many applications that come in, we try to cater to more also applicants and selected participants from these countries. I will not give too much information on who these countries are, but we try to ensure that we have a balance in between this as well for the final group. But yes, at least 2 for the online portion. Then for the on-site, we have a smaller group, so not every country will be able to join us from that. But again, we'll try to ensure a geographical balance, at least 1 or so per country. And then we see based off of the active participation who will be able to join. I see that we have Priya who has raised her hand. Unfortunately, I cannot bring you into to ask a question, but I see you've also put your question in the Q&A. So you've asked what primary qualities I look for in a good applicant for online training and action based in Norway. So as I mentioned a little bit earlier, and also what you can see on our stories, perhaps in the past day on Instagram, we look for curious people, those that have an interest and motivation, and we can see this in both previous experiences and also plans for the future in wanting to contribute to something greater than themselves. We see empathy. We see those that are willing to challenge their own understanding of the world to learn more about the people around us. And of course, this is all very vague, and it's only from my perspective. We are a group from our education department that screen these applicants, and we all look for a little bit different things, but that's also why when we come together and make the final selection, we get a very diverse and great group of people. But yeah, I would say those are my first couple of thoughts. I'm gonna do this is a good question. On whether or not how we account for people with different both mobility issues, but also perhaps physical and mental disabilities. We, beyond, of course, the inclusivity on geographical balance, we also do our best to ensure that our programs are open and inclusive and accessible for people with different disabilities. This includes, of course, any support for on-site in terms of mobility. We've offered and provided support with wheelchairs and other things beforehand, but also visual guidance for people with hard of hearing as well. And for online, we really have to assess based off of the needs of the participants. If there is a need for additional discussions or materials to be shared, and this, I think the person with the disability knows themselves, and we always have a dialogue on this. In your application form, you can already indicate if there's any particular support you would need, and we can plan accordingly for this for the training if you're selected for the group. So I want to say that not only are we encouraging, but also we're doing our best to ensure that our programs are open for everyone, despite having to have additional support for us. Okay, I've been talking a lot, and we're coming to the end of the day session. If I have not answered your question, again, you have the email in our in the chat. And I'll also put it here on the screen for you to access. But it's weird since I'm talking more or less to myself, but I want to say that it's been a conversation with you as well. Then I think we've been able to connect, and I hope answered as many questions as possible for you. As mentioned, any other ones that you have from this or that come up, can submit to us over email. And you can also rewatch this recording afterwards. We'll put this available on our website for you to skip through and find any questions that you have. with that in mind, we've run on for quite some time, and I will close it here today. And I hope to receive your applications in the coming weeks and to screen them and to connect with you all over the training and program to come. Thank you all so much for your patience and for joining us today. For those of you joining from Europe, have a good rest of your day. For those of you joining from Asia, have a good rest of your evening. And from Australia and New Zealand, perhaps good night is in order. Thank you all so much, and have a great time. See you hopefully soon in the program. Thank you all so much.